senior PhD student in nutrition science, but my professor is a food science professor. So thanks for coming. We'd like to have Beth Forbes here. Give her a hand for coming and giving her time to kind of share this topic. There was kind of a pretty large response, and I'm really glad that you guys all came. And I'm part of the Academic and Professional Development Committee of the PGSG, and we kind of put together these kind of seminars. You probably come to some of them, but this is kind of a topic that we were kind of interested in learning more about, and it's something that we all know is fairly important, but we may not know why or even how to go about doing it. So several things. There's a sheet that should be going around, or several sheets that are going around. If you want to, you can fill it out, and we'll send out a survey to kind of get ideas for what else we can kind of talk about for these seminars, as well as if you want to make comments about what to include if we were to do the seminar again, say next year. Also, if you want to, you can also just email me if you have an idea, if you want to be involved with the APD committee. You can see one of the people who are coordinating. There's me, Casey is the outgoing co-chair, and there's Anna back there too, who's the incoming chair for the committee. And I think that's it. So thanks for coming, and give another round of applause.
Well, thank you. Okay. Is this microphone on? Do you hear me? Is that going to work for you? Okay, cool. When he told me that he had a larger than expected response, I thought, oh, wow, that's great. And then he said, I think it had something to do with it was food. So I was like, okay, all right, I get it. But no, I do appreciate this is the final week of classes. I'm sure you're all very busy to be out tonight. I do appreciate you coming, because to me this is an important topic. And you, as I'm going to say later, are some of the most important people to be talking about this. So I hope to make a case for why this is important and why you should be involved, and then give you just a few tips about how to do it. And nothing that I'm presenting to you is going to be terribly startlingly exciting or innovative. But again, the title, Talk to Me. I mean, that's what it really boils down to, is a series of conversations. And that's how you're going to best communicate to people. There's no magic bullet. You're not going to write a magic paper that suddenly the whole world will hear and go, oh, wow, that's phenomenal. No. Most likely, you're going to have your most influence with other people.
Maybe you're like this.
Maybe not.
Did you turn on
I did, but it says it's on, but maybe not. Let me use the.
Sure.
Yes. That. Is this better?
Maybe you gotta give a second.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, let's go for that. So, again, I'm hoping to make a case for why this is important. Oh. Okay, I'll just tell you that science is not a real terribly popular topic among most Americans. In fact, I saw a statistic a while back that only 13% of people in the United States actually follow science and technology news. So that means most people, I can't do the math, I'm not I'm a liberal arts major, but if you did do the math, you would say, well, okay, the majority of Americans are not really that interested in science and technology. Well, they are, but they find it difficult and hard to follow. You know, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of studies. Some studies contradict each other. So how do you get to all of that information? So, in general, science may not be the most popular subject for people, but there is more and more conversation about scientific topics every day. When I go to the store, I'm a busy mom. I'm going to do shopping, and I'll go in there, and I don't have time to read the labels. I don't have time to be informed, but I'm going to see everything from gluten-free to fat-free to environmentally friendly packaging to PBA-free, and I can be very honest, I don't know what some of that stuff's all about. But it says on the package that it's free of it. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't know. And a lot of people don't know. And so I'm just going to share with you one example, and some of you may be familiar with this. This was actually done on TV. This comes from the Jimmy Kimmel show, where
according to a new study that was done by Consumer
he talks about what is a GMO. Can you hear that?
Goods that are labeled natural are actually contain genetically modified ingredients, which makes it unclear, as to whether they are natural or not, because they grow, but they could modify it in a laboratory or whatever. Apparently, the FDA will allow companies to put the word natural on a product label as long as it says JKLOL on the back of the product. But critics of genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, claim that they pose health risks. It's a complicated issue, though, because there isn't a lot of evidence to back that up. Still, some people are dead set against them. There's been legislation designed to limit GMOs. You see documentaries and angry Facebook posts about it. How many of you do not want GMOs in your body? Yes? Okay, a lot of people. All right. So, as I usually do, when people take a stance on a complicated issue, I wondered how many people who are against GMOs really know what they are. So we sent a crew to one of our local farmers markets to ask people why they avoid GMOs, and more specifically, what the letters GMO stand for. Enjoy.
Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
I do. Yeah.
Tell me what.
There's just a vibration with GMOs. For me personally, just something that I don't particularly want to put into my body.
What does GMO stand for?
Genetically modified. Genetically modified.
Yo.
The. I don't know.
Bishop Don Magic Wand, what is a GMO?
Well, I'm not really sure. You have to make me familiar with that. What is a GMO?
Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that?
Just the effects, I guess, on myself.
What does GMO stand for?
Man, put me on the grill. Let's see. I don't even remember.
Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
Absolutely,
Why?
because they're not good for you.
What is a GMO?
It's genetically I don't know, what is it?
If you aren't eating whole foods, you want to eat what you're eating. You know what I mean? You want to eat what you see, and so, and you're avoiding processed food. But when the whole food is somehow contaminated, that's kind of making it a moot point.
What does GMO stand for?
Genetically manufactured. Oh.
What is a GMO?
General modified ingredient, right?
What is a GMO?
It's something modified.
Do you try to avoid GMOs?
Sometimes. Not a whole lot, but I try.
What is a GMO?
I don't know. I swear. I was just going along with it. I don't know what GMO is.
What is a GMO?
I don't know. I know it's like some corn bad stuff, right? I know it's bad, but to be completely honest with you, I have no idea.
What is a GMO?
I don't know, so I really don't care. It doesn't affect me. I'm not sick. I'm fine.
What is a GMO?
It's a genetically modified organism.
And what's GMO spelled backwards?
OMG.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now we have to figure out what OMG stands
Okay, so hopefully that gives you the idea. Now if I can get back to where I wanted to be.
Hi, Internet Net watchers. Jimmy Kimmel here. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for all our latest viral videos. And while you're here, don't forget to get in a...
According to Beth, I also didn't do technology well either. So, okay. Well, thank you so much. So that gives you the idea. People have very strong opinions about something they don't even know what it is, right? And that's not uncommon, that happens a lot. And whether you're for GMOs or not, that's not the point. The point is, people every day are making decisions about things that they don't really understand. And helping them make informed decisions is a hope, is what you all would like to do. The conversation about science in this country needs to move away from some of the emotional polarization to some actual conversations and understanding about scientific topics, and that's what I hope to encourage you all to be involved in. So, let's move on. People make decisions about scientific information for many reasons. Like I said, I mentioned that, you know, that some of them are informed and some of them are not. But there are some theories behind why. I didn't use my mic, I'm sorry. There are some theories about why people do what they do. One of them is motivated reasoning theory, and that has something to do with the fact that if you and I agree, so for example, let's take politics. If you and I both have a Republican viewpoint, then I'm going to side with you on different perspectives tied to that viewpoint, okay? And even if I know logically that something is wrong or incorrect, because you and I feel the same, you and I think alike, if you think it, I'm going to be motivated to follow your line of logic or reasoning, all right? Motivated reasoning. So because I like you, because we think alike, because you are like me, I'm going to follow your logic, all right? That's one theory about why people do what they do. There's another theory, and there are so many, but I'm just picking a couple to share with you. One's called the theory of the passionate fringe. This one is kind of interesting. This one's funny to me. You ever wonder why there can be activists who gain a lot of support for some very radical, far-off thinking? Well, according to the theory of the passionate fringe, it's the very passion that they bring to their activism that makes people follow them and believe them. I use the sign of a PETA activist here. This is someone who actually showed up on her campus. She wore a stinky, ratty old rat costume and carried a sign and was protesting. Now, how many of you would do that? Show up on a strange campus, wear a costume, carry a sign, and try and get people to talk to you. All right? That's kind of radical, all right? I don't see anybody in this room that's thought that they would do that. But this woman so highly believed in what she was doing, so committed to what she was doing, that's what she did. And a lot more activists will do a lot more crazier things than that to get attention for their cause. And so it's that very passion that they have that makes other people around them go, well, you know, if she believes that strongly in this cause or this issue, maybe there's something to it. Maybe she's got some kind of good logic or good reason for what she's doing. The theory of the passionate fringe. Okay, so those are just examples of why people may hold beliefs, may take sides that are not maybe even logical to them. So one of the things about communicating science, and I made the comment at a presentation that was a while back, I didn't share with you a little of my background, but I'll do that right now. My first career was as a reporter. I actually worked in radio and television before I came to Purdue many, many years ago, and it was at that time when I came to Purdue that I started working what is now marketing and media. It was then university relations, and I did the radio news line, and there I was presenting more information and news about Purdue University. A few years ago, I went into ag communications, where I was their news unit coordinator, and then later became their department head. So communicating and working with the media has been my primary role for most of my adult life. But in the last few years, and in that role, when I came to Purdue, I did a lot of media training. So I would help faculty and staff learn how to do media interviews and work with reporters. The past few years, though, the majority of my efforts have not been targeted so much on media relations. It's been more about, because people are not so much fearful anymore of talking, at least the people I work with, of talking to the media. Some of them don't want to talk to the public. There is this sense of they don't care, they're not interested, they don't understand, they've already made up their mind, so why should I bother, right? Well, like I said, my hope today is that after we get done, that you will see why you should bother and why it matters and why it's important. But one of the key things about communicating science is trust. The American public does trust scientists. About 71% of people will say they do. But they don't necessarily trust science. Because think about it. Every day new studies come out, you know. And one day you might see a study that says wine is bad for you. The next day you might see a study that says wine is good for you. On that day I'm like, yay, okay? Same thing. Chocolate or you name any of another of other things. You know, it can be complicated. It can be hard to follow science because you can actually get these contradictions, right? But beyond that, there are other reasons why people's trust in science has eroded. None of you, I'll say most of you, maybe some of you, as I look around the room, but let's say most of you were not around during the Watergate era, 1973, if you will. During the 50s and 60s, up to that time, people's trust in science continued to grow. It was very, very high. It was, you know, roughly, let's say, in the 90% percentile, if you will. And that meant that if a scientist said it, if it was in your science textbook, if it was in a research study, if a government official said it, you believed it because it was science. You know, that was you know, authoritative stuff, if you will. Then you see in the late 60s, early 70s, this erosion, this beginning erosion of people's belief in science. Some people believe it's tied to some of this disruption in general that happened during the late 60s, a lot of the civil unrest, the rioting. People in general were just questioning beliefs all along, you know, whether, whatever it was. You hear more of a sense of questioning. And then finally, around 1973, our president of our country is thrown out of office, and basically over crimes that he committed. And so now people are, a lot of historians and others point to that as a period of time where people's trust in authority started to erode even further. And since then, you see a decline in people's trust in science. And a lot of it, we think, is due to their beliefs and thoughts about authority figures in general. But with that at stake, that's partly why you get a lot of this, these other factors that are influencing people's decisions. So part of what we have to do to communicate science to people is to build trust with the public in science. So, it's not a lack of knowledge. Some of the most educated people are also sometimes the most suspicious and most polarized, if you will, on certain views, interestingly enough. So, it's not that they don't know things, it's how they see the world and they view their perspectives. Is science to blame? To me, this is an interesting question. Think about it. When you do your research and you build your thesis and you think about these questions. You know, what does your professor say? Okay? Be dispassionate. Don't make quick assumptions. Be skeptical. Question everything. All right? So in that regard, if other people are around you and they think that's how science is done, you know, there's like, well, what? There's no right or wrong, or you don't know definitely. I think about a lot of the studies where I see things like, you know, I can predict this with a 95% confidence level. And you'd say, well, that's pretty good. But somebody in the public might say, well, you mean you don't know for sure? Right? Oh, you can't tell me that 100% of the time? Well, no, 95's good. We debate findings. We have things like peer review, where people actually critique other people's work and decide, you know, well, is that good work or not? Okay, so again, so there are no absolutes. I can't be absolutely certain about this topic. Controlled studies. You know, some people say, well, you scientists, you do that and you did it in a lab and it worked in a lab, but I live in the real world. What's it like in the real world? What's happening out here? And I don't think what you did impacts what I do out here. Okay? Well, maybe that's a legitimate concern. There's also this ivory tower mindset. Okay? You are not among the majority of people. At least in this state, the majority of people don't go to college. Majority of people don't go on to get a master's degree, right? So, much less go for a doctorate. So, you are among those that people might view as that ivory tower elite. You know, you attend a prestigious university, you don't know what it's like for me, because I live in a small town in rural Indiana, and I work the 3 to 11 shift at the factory. You just don't know what it's like for me. You are a different kind of person than I am. All right? So, and, you know, you are in some ways. You are in many ways different. But these are some of the things. So let's talk, okay? I hope that I've kind of set the stage for you about why this is an important topic, what some of the perceptions are of the public and the people around you, and why you might want to do this. So here in a nutshell is what we're going to focus on now. How do you do this? How do you talk to other people about your research? What do you do? And so these are the things that we're going to focus on right now. The best practices. Tell a story. I'm going to tell you about how to do that. Relate to others. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why that's important. Keep it simple. I'm not saying dumb it down. I'm saying keep it simple. Show that you care. And for a scientist, sometimes this is one of the hardest things for them to say, what? Why would I want to do that? That's emotional, warm, fuzzy. Why do I want to do that? And listen and ask questions. Okay? So let's talk about telling a story. From the time you're a toddler till you're 9 years old, everybody likes to hear a story. Everybody likes to hear a story. Most people don't want to hear a history lecture. You know, think about you know, when you begin your research paper and you talk about your lit review. What is that? That's a history lesson. Okay? Most people don't want a science lecture because they're not going to understand it and they're not that interested in science in general. So how do you talk about research in a way that piques their interest and helps them understand it? Tell them a story. And I know you're sitting there going, well, what story do I have to tell? Okay, well, why are you interested in what you do? Anybody here want to give me an example or tell me why it is you are interested in what you do? I said I didn't pick up people in the front, but you look fine. Use your microphone.
Question is,
Will it work? No, maybe not. Okay, go ahead.
so the question is, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah. Why is that interesting to you?
So I'm in nutrition and I'm studying essentially bone and like muscle and bone and health and whatnot. And I'm really interested in that is because that is the foundation for overall health from early life to later life. If you have impaired muscle or bone health, you're going to have poor quality of life later on, or if you have some kind of deformity or some malnutrition early in life, that's going to affect later on. So I think that makes a significant impact on overall health.
Okay, so your story is bones are one of the most important things for life.
Yes.
That's right. And today, okay, and so you could start by telling them that. You didn't tell me what your thesis is. You didn't tell me who your major professor is. You just said, I'm interested, I study bones, and to me that's the most important thing about health. Okay, that would be a great way to start your story. Interesting people. Anybody here in doing what you're doing because you were mentored by someone that you just thought was phenomenal, or you had a great science teacher in high school, or someone, there was a person who actually got you interested in where you are? I see some smiles, but I don't see any hands of anybody. Anybody like that? Anybody want to tell me about a person who impacted you or got you going in the direction that you're going? Anything like that? Well, I'll tell one, okay? When I was, I said that I worked in radio and television, and early on when I was in junior high, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And there were a couple of people who influenced me in that direction. One of them was a DJ that I listened to every morning on the radio. He was out of Chicago. His name was Larry Lee Jack, and I just thought he was phenomenal. And you probably don't know who he is, but that was great and informative too. But there was another gentleman, and I won't say his name, who was at a local radio station in near where I grew up, and that was South Bend, Indiana. I lived out in the country, but and I listened to him on a daily basis, and it seemed like every time he did a story, he stuttered, or he tripped over the words, or it didn't make sense, and I kept thinking, even at 13 years old, I thought, I know I could do a better job than that guy. So he was one of the people who influenced me to do what I did, because I thought I could do a better job than that guy, and they put him on the radio. So. Is that great? Is that impactful? No, but it's the story of why I got interested in what I wanted to do. So, what about odd or unusual? Anybody doing anything that you might say is odd or unusual? Your work is, or something that people might not really think about that might have attracted you to what you're doing? Anything? Everything you're doing is normal?
No.
Nothing that surprises you on a daily basis? Okay, good. Jump in.
So, a lot of people don't think about coffee creamers or milk being fat suspended in water.
Right.
And I study that because I think it's interesting.
Okay, all right. Why are they suspended in water? Why are they?
You have emotion. So basically milk is an emotion and a coffee creamer is an emotion. But if you think about it, it's just fat and water. Okay. But people will prefer to drink milk or put milk instead of a coffee maker if they discovered that it's just fat suspended in water.
So is that a good thing? Should I switch to milk?
It's preference. It's the same thing, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so she started out her story telling me, educating me, thank you, about milk and creamers by just saying, this is kind of an odd thing. Have you ever thought about the fact that your creamer sits in liquid water in your drink? And no, that is kind of unusual. I never thought about that, right? Okay, impacts. And this is one that I hear a lot of people use, all right? So a lot of people get involved in research and science because they want to solve problems or make a difference in the world or however you want to describe it. But you're hoping that your research actually has an impact, has value. Somebody want to share with me a little bit about why you want to do research based on the impact or value that you hope major challenge or problem do you want to solve or help solve? Any thoughts? No? Okay, yeah, back there. Very good.
Hi, I'm Marissa. I'm doing my master's in public health. My thesis is looking at HIV in adolescent females in sub-Saharan Africa. There's been a 50% increase in AIDS-related deaths among that group, especially when there's been a 30% increase in AIDS-related survival among adults. So I'm hoping to see what's more effective in saving young girls' lives.
All right, that is impactful. That's a great impact story. All right. Okay, so, and there are a lot of other ways that you can get into it, but in every one of these instances, you didn't hear someone give you a lecture or a lot of scientific data. What we were trying to do is to find some kind of, like I said, something about the work that you're doing that could actually be used to begin a conversation with someone that talks mostly from a story perspective. All right? So that's one technique. When you tell your stories, just like that compelling story about AIDS research, people like people. There's a song like that, people, I better not do that. But anyway, people like people's stories, okay? So, whether it's bone health, or whether it's AIDS research, or whether it's the coffee that I drink in the morning, if you can tie your story into people, now you're really hitting them because they like people's stories. Let's use an example from climate change. A lot of times when people talk about climate change, they talk about Earth. They show pictures of the Earth, all right? Because hey, it's the Earth's climate that's changing, right? Makes sense, okay? But if we think about it, and people like people, might this be more effective? Did you know that people that were affected by climate disasters, 98% of them in developing countries, okay? To me, I think this is a very much more effective way to help people to become concerned or think about climate change, because now I'm seeing an impact on people. Right or wrong, it's not wrong to talk about the Earth and the impact of the Earth, but if you want to capture people's attention, talk about people. Sometimes it's called gossip. All right. It's also true that when you're talking to people, a lot of the things that you may be working on, a lot of the formulas or chemicals or whatever it is, they may be hard for people to picture or think about. Scientists will tell you that if you want to help people better understand a topic, you want to get as much of their brain engaged in it as you can. So in addition to just telling them about something, I'm going to use the example of the coffee. As soon as she said coffee, things evoked in my mind, okay? I could think of the smell of coffee, the look of the creamer, coffee that goes from black to that kind of, that nice caramel color, right? Okay? Now I'm going to remember that story better because she helped evoke my senses into her story. All right? Bone health, okay? When we think about the hardness, you specifically said, you want good, hard, healthy bones, all right? Anything you can do to help people think about your topic in more than just literal terms. Help them see things, help them feel things, if you're talking about doing research on leaves, and you can help them feel the velvet underneath side of that plant structure, or whatever it is, okay? The more that you can do that, the more you'll help people better understand. Just a tip, technique. I said that people, you need to relate to people, all right? I saw a survey, maybe it's been a year ago now, where it said that people your age, people in their 20s, and I'm assuming most of you are in that category, are just as likely to trust a peer for information as they are to trust an expert. Do you believe that? There's a survey. Could be right or wrong, whatever. But why do you think that's true? Any thoughts? Well, a lot of the thinking here is that the reason why you might trust a peer as much as you would an expert is because that peer is someone just like you. Okay? A lot of times, moms, I'm a mom, moms will belong to these nutrition clubs, right? And you're there with other moms, right? I have 3 kids, they're in school, they're finicky eaters. I go to mommy's club, I'm there with other moms who have kids in school, their kids are finicky eaters. One of the moms says to me, hey, I found these nuggets the other day. They're soy nuggets, but they're pretty good tasting. My kids are actually eating them. So then I might think, okay, well, she's like me. Her kids are like mine. My kids might like those too. Okay? So now I'm taking advice from her because I can relate to her. We have similar situations. We have similar lifestyles and kids. I find her somebody I can relate to. If her kids like it, if she likes it, mine might too. All right? Simple, but that's the way a lot of things work. So I am going to be more likely to listen to and take advice from somebody like me. So again, let's go back to the fact that you ivory towered academics may be different than most people. All right? And because you are, doing research at a university, a lot of people you talk to are going to be, wow, you're a lot smarter than I am, right? They're going to put you in a quote unquote position of power. They're going to think of you differently than they would maybe someone that they work with at the factory or someone that they talk to when they go to the grocery store. They're going to perceive you as different. So, how do you get by that barrier? How do you become someone who can relate to someone? Either a reporter or someone that you meet at a social gathering. How can you create that rapport, if you will, with others? Any ideas? Thoughts? What about, yes, go ahead.
I guess you can find a common interest.
Find common interests, right. You don't just spend all your time in the lab or doing research. What are some hobbies you have? You might share that hobby with them. Then they go, oh, I like that too. You are kind of like me, aren't you? What about clubs or sports or, the idea here is what common ground can you find with people when you're talking to them that helps them to understand that, I'm not somebody that's totally different than you are. We have common interests, and here are a few, here are some. And so in that regard, again, you're helping to establish that, I'm like you. And if this is what I like, you might like it too. Or if this is what I believe, you might believe it too. Or if this is what I understand, you might understand it too. Because, hey, we're not all that different. Keep it short and simple. I appreciate that each of you, when you were sharing your stories with me earlier, you didn't take, you took maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds to share. That was great, okay? When you're talking with someone and they ask you a question, what do you do? They don't want to hear a long lecture. They're not going to understand it anyway. So prepare a short story. Don't put in jargon. Try not to use scientific terms that they're not going to understand. Think about how you can explain a technique or a theory or what you do in terms that will help them understand, picture, and relate to what it is that you do. Anybody want to take a stab at that, telling me what you do in a very short, succinct, simple manner? Aha. Oh, good. Thank you.
So I study nutrition science, and my topic is looking at selenium, which is a micromineral, and its effect in metabolic diseases, so diseases related to obesity.
Okay. Can we work on that? Thank you. I'm going to pick on you. Okay. Selenium. And then you said that it was a mineral of some sort. Okay. So why is it important to me?
Because it's a nutrient.
Okay. So I study a nutrient that's called selenium. And what was that about diseases that you told me?
I study how it can affect diseases related to obesity.
Okay, so selenium makes me fat?
No.
Oh, okay. Selenium doesn't make me fat?
Selenium may help with diseases. It may help. It may help kind of curb the effects.
Oh, so selenium may make it less likely that I get diseases from being fat?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you get the picture. Thank you so much, and I'm picking on Jordan because I hope he doesn't regret volunteering afterwards. But the idea is, work with a friend. Practice with someone, who doesn't know your research or doesn't know you. And, in this case, I'm asking stupid questions, and, some of you are giggling and laughing, but, hey, there are a lot of people out there who don't know what selenium is, or what some of these diseases are, or why that might be an impact. So keep it short and simple. And I use the analogy of talking to your mom. How many of you have gone home and that was one of the things that we used as our premise here. It's the holidays, you're sitting at the dinner table, and your mom's so proud of you, and she says, "What is it that you do?" What do you say? What do you tell her? Now, unless she's a physicist, I'm guessing that it's something very different. Or whatever. Anybody want to volunteer how you talk to your mom about what you do? I know your moms are interested, even if nobody else is. Moms are always interested. They always want to know what you're doing. Nobody's, okay, go ahead, great.
I'm from chemistry, so I actually work on designing drugs for treating HIV/AIDS. So the problem with the HIV virus is that it changes itself continuously, so it's difficult for a single drug to target it and stop it. But I actually try to target such a part of the virus that doesn't change. So if that part of the virus changes, the virus has to lose its function. So basically, if I can stop that part, then I will achieve my goal.
Okay, great. And I think your mom could get that.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I even got it. Great, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Speaking of AIDS research, you reminded me of an interview I had once with an AIDS researcher here on campus many years ago. And as I was interviewing him for a story, I was probably a good 25 minutes into the interview, and I had not figured out a word of what he was doing. I'm telling you, I don't come from a science background, right? I came from a reporter background. And I'm sweating, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta write a story, and I don't know what he's doing, I can't figure it out. And he knew I was struggling, and he's kind of like, how can I help this poor soul? And so finally he looks at me, goes, well, Velcro. Have you heard of Velcro? And I went, oh, yes, I knew Velcro. And he said, well, the AIDS virus attaches to the body sort of like Velcro. And my idea, I'm working on trying to make it not stick like Velcro. And I may not be explaining it as well as he did, but I knew Velcro. I knew how Velcro worked. I knew the idea, and when he said that, I could picture in my mind what he was talking about. Saved the whole interview. I gotta say. Those are the kinds of things that you can look for and share with people. And it's not, again, some people say, I can't dumb down my work. This is not dumbing down your work. This is helping everyday people understand the things that you do, all right? If somebody were to talk to me about fixing a car, I wouldn't understand it. And chances are a lot of you wouldn't understand it either because it's not your area. You don't work on cars every day, okay? So helping people better understand what you do is not dumbing down a topic. It's just making it more understandable, relatable to people. Okay. I said care, and one time when I first started talking about this with faculty members, and they go, care? What's that got to do with it? That's the warm and fuzzy stuff. You know, I'm a dispassionate scientist who does my research in the lab. What's this caring thing about? Well, I use the phrase, a lot of times people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Think about that dispassionate fringe theory. Just the fact that we have people who are so strongly committed to what they do that they will go to strange places, put on a mouse costume, and carry a sign and talk to people. Those people are passionate. Those people are committed. Are you that committed about your science, about your research? Are you passionate about it? Why do you care about it? Okay? You're getting ready to embark on a very lengthy career in some of these areas. If you're not passionate about it, if you don't care about it, you're going to have a very long, unhappy life, right? So, what is it that you care about? Why is it important to you? And how can you convey that to others? All right, those are just some of the things I'd like to think about. Okay, I'm getting ready to wrap up here, so listen and ask questions. Some of the best skills in communications are not talking, but listening. Sometimes those of us who are trying to talk to others make the mistake of assuming what they want to know or assuming that they understand things that they don't. So when you're explaining something to someone, not only do you have to talk to them, but you have to listen to them. And you need to ask them questions to see whether or not they get it. All right? Because you might have been in that situation where I was with that AIDS researcher where for 15, 20 minutes I'm sitting there going, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't get it. He could read my body language and know that I wasn't getting it, but you may have to do more. You may have to probe. You may have to ask somebody. And sometimes you can do it this way. When I was talking about how that emulsion works and how that, why that's different in different things, did that make sense to you? And they might say, yeah, and then you go, well, if you were going to explain to somebody, would you have explained it the way I did? Probe. Find out what people do or do not understand. That will tell you whether or not you're actually getting through. To me, this is particularly important. We said this could be anybody. This is particularly important to me if you're talking to a reporter or if you're conversing with someone through social media. Because these are areas where what you're saying and doing is very public. And if somebody's going to get it wrong, you want it to get it wrong when they're talking with you, not after it's appeared on the front page of the Indianapolis Star. All right? So test, talk to people, probe for understanding, listen to them, see whether or not you're actually getting through. That's part of the skill of communication. So, that pretty much wraps up my talk. Tell a story, relate to others, keep it simple, show you care, and listen, and ask questions. All right? Nothing earth-shattering here, but I'm hoping that you find that this helps you think more about how you can communicate to others and why it's a significant and important thing to do. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. If I can. Anything in particular? Yes.
I do pretty basic science that doesn't have obvious impacts to your everyday life. And I find that when I tell people about it, they're like, well, why does that matter? And I don't want to stretch it to impacts that I don't think are really there. I want them to understand that basic research is important. Like how do I communicate that?
Okay. Maybe some people in the room can help. Why is basic research important? She's not going to feed the world. She's not going to find a cure for AIDS. She's doing basic research. Why is that important? Why do we need that? Yes?
You need to take the next step. You need the basic science, the basic research to give us the knowledge so we can apply, more clinical or more things towards people, how to apply that towards people. Because, if you work with people, you don't just like automatically give them a drug that you've not tested. It's done in the lab, it's done basic science stuff, it's gone through cell work, it's gone through animal work, then all of a sudden it goes to humans. So you're like the foundation of what we use to make an impact.
Okay, so you're building your foundation. Other thoughts? Anything else? Why is that important? Sometimes I hear a lot of people talk about how, particularly in the areas of, I'll just say climate change, there are a lot of people who will side one way or another on that, and it doesn't really, even though we know that a lot of science supports it, there are still people who may believe that it's not there, and they have a lot of questions and concerns about it. So one of the things that I like to say is, well, if you have questions and concerns, then maybe we need to do more research. And if we need to do more research, then we should support the funding of more research so that we can answer those questions that you have. And I believe basic science is part of answering general questions that people have. We do want to understand better how our planet's changing, or the impacts of GMOs on our body. We need more research if we're going to answer these questions. That's what it's all about. And when you're doing that, you're putting a plug in. That's why we need more funding for research. And I love to hear it when you get those plugs in. Yes, we do. Thanks. Any other questions?
Also, like when we talk to people, that sometimes they just be polite and they nod, even though they don't understand. And so, like, you may say that, does it make sense to you? And then they will say yes, but you still don't know that whether they really understand it. By the way, probe.
Is there a better way? Okay, that's a good point. You're right. Because if somebody's not getting it, they're not going to say, I'm sorry, I must be just too stupid to get this. They're not going to readily admit that, right? Okay. So can you ask them a question in particular about, like when I was conversing with Jordan here, I said selenium. You know what selenium is, right? I mean, don't ask them a yes or no question. Just ask them a specific question. Do you know what selenium is? And they'll go, it's sort of like that GMO. I bet you'll get a lot of this like that GMO. But, no. And when you ask a question like that, don't ask it in a way that makes them feel stupid. Because what you're saying is they're going to tell you, yes, I understand, but because they don't want to feel stupid, right? And you'll say, well, that's okay, because a lot of people don't know what selenium is. So selenium is this, right? Okay, so help them feel comfortable enough to tell you and admit. So that might be one way of doing it. Any other thoughts on that, about how you can do that? Well, I don't want to keep you long because you were kind enough to come, eat, and listen. But I appreciate this opportunity. I hope that you'll take some of this and put it to use. I'd love to see that out there. If there's nothing else, have a good evening.